Hello, in this video today I'm going to talk about how to begin and end your threads. This is quite often a question that beginners have. In order to do that, I'm going to show you one of my pieces. I'm kind of a fanatic. I don't care to have knots showing anywhere on the outside of my work. They are all hidden within the layers of the fabric. This is a little piece that I've done, and if I flip it over, you can certainly see that there are no knots anywhere around the outside edge. They are all hidden on the back as well as on the front. And I won't be using this piece, but I thought I'd show you the result of not having any knots that show on your piece. The piece that I am actually going to demo this is a piece that I'm working on. It's another model that I'm making of my daisy garden. And as you can see, this is made of, it's my Pendleton wool, which I dearly love, and it's a shirtweight flannel. And you can see that it's actually quite thin. This is a Marcus Brothers wool. It's a little heavier. But anyways, we're going to hide the knots in between the layers so that they don't show. All other knots on the layers quite often are just hidden. When I sewed this leaf on, there is a knot here behind this white layer. It was fused on, and then I come up from behind the white layer, obviously then pressing the white layer down and going around. Our goal again is to achieve no visible knots, and this is most problematic for most people when they want to go around an outside edge. I will be using the same materials I typically use. This is a Valdani size 12 thread, and I will also be using the Embroidery Redwick size 9 needle by Jenna Kimball. And those are my typical go-to things, but if you're a new viewer, that may be important. Okay, I'm going to tie a knot, and some people do not tie knots. It's not always necessary, no pun intended, but I'm going to tie a knot. It just gives a little bit of anchoring. Now, in order to start, pick a point, probably not in the middle of an arch, but in the crease, or find a place in between the layers. And even if you've used fusible, and this is all fused, put the back of the needle going through any place. You can have it go through at an angle and have it come out, but do not slide it all the way out. Don't slide the tip of the needle out. Just move it over and come up again at another point. Do not slide the back end of the needle out. And you might want to take a check on the back, make sure the needle is not coming out. Like I said, this is very thin wool. Back it up. Make sure that the distance from here to here is not longer than your needle. And then all you do is send it forward to come out, and you might have to stab a little bit to come out where you wanted to start, which is actually where you went in with the back of the needle. At that point, you can pull the needle, and by pulling, you'll see that the knot slides in and it is totally hidden. If there's a little bit of the extra thread at the end that sticks out, it's not a big deal. At that point, you can begin your blanket stitch and continue around, and I will do a little bit of stitching off of the video, and you will find out that I'll show you how to join the thread, how to start another thread when this one ends. And it helps if you can do that where you have a layer of applique. It just gives you an extra level of protection, so to speak, to not having your thread show in the back. So I will work a little bit and we'll complete the video showing you how to end this thread and begin another. Okay, I stitched around the edge. You can see that I'm doing every other one beaded edge. It doesn't make any difference if you are using a plain blanket stitch or whatever edge stitch you may use. Hiding your threads is really kind of just interpreting how the stitch works and knowing where your thread goes. Okay, in this case I'm ending right after a bead, and I want to hide this end. I have about this much thread left. Gives me enough to maneuver, and I'm going to go down. I've ended the stitch, and I'm going to find my way again between the layers And you can usually feel some resistance. Now if you look, I've snagged a little bit. My needle is coming through in the back. I'm just going to go back, and the technique is pretty much the same. You're bringing up your needle. You're not going to go all the way through, and I'm going to back it up here. And I'm just going to back it up to some point along the outside edge. In this case, it doesn't have to be, but in that case I can pull the needle out and I can kind of tug on the thread. You don't want to tug too tight, and you will see that that thread goes right back down there. It now comes out here, and then what I usually do is I just go back in and I travel in between the threads right where I've sewn along the edge and just come out somewhere along the edge, making sure that the needle does not show on either edge. And I pull that through, and you don't want to pull tight, and just tight enough to snug it up, and then I usually just snip that thread. There really isn't any need, I found, to do a knot. It's very difficult. If you ever have to rip it out, you'll find out that it's more difficult than you think. Now, to start another thread, it's very much like starting. In this case, it's a little bit easier because I'm going to pick a point back here where I've been. And again, I'm going to drive the needle in backwards, making sure nothing's on the other end. And I do have a knot, just so you know, I have a knot tied on the end of that thread. And I'm going to pull this through. Again, do not take the tip of your needle out. If you do that by accident, you just have to take the needle out in the thread, and it's very easy. It's nothing that you should panic about. And come in right where the thread would have continued in your stitch. And then you can pull the thread through. Now sometimes it won't be so easy to pull that thread through, but as you can see here, I pulled it through, and there's no evidence of that thread on the back or on the front. You don't have to pull hard. At that point, you can begin and start stitching just like your normal blanket stitch as you go along. Again, try and make your changes in places where there's a corner or a niche or a turn, but that's not always possible, especially on long straight pieces where you have something. But as you can see, by doing this all the way around, you will have a piece that will not have any visible knots on the outside of your work, and it certainly adds to the neatness of it all. Thank you. Have a good day stitching.